A court in New York has fined former President Donald Trump over $350 million for fraud involving his business empire.
In a surprising turn, real estate tycoon Grant Cardone has announced he's pulling out of the New York real estate scene. This decision follows former President Trump being hit with a massive $355 million fine. Cardone is frustrated with New York's strict rules and high taxes, which he thinks hurt business. There's also talk of truckers joining the protest, possibly stopping deliveries to New York City.
I'm not going to encourage it, but if New York City gonna have judges ruling like they're ruling and running a town like they're running, then every truck driver in this country, everybody has in this country, decide on their own. I'm just saying, I stand with Trump.
This could cause problems for big businesses. Join us as we reveal why investors are leaving New York. Chapter 1. The massive $350 million fine. After a recent legal decision involving former President Donald Trump, which resulted in a $355 million fine, Grant Cardone, a successful real estate business owner, declared that his company, Cardone Capital, would stop considering real estate investments in New York. He expressed his shock and disbelief at the decision, stating that it made no sense to him.
California and New York City, I've been waiting for 40 years now to invest in that marketplace. I was completely confident, Steve, this was the year to come. And when that ruling happened, it was like pencils down, don't touch it, don't go there.
Cardone shared his perspective as an investor, highlighting his concerns about the state's policies, high taxes, and uncompetitive regulations, which he believes make New York an unattractive place for investment, similar to California and other states he views negatively. Cardone explained his current business focus is on developing high-end data centers, which are in high demand and cost billions to build. These data centers require a lot of electricity and permits to operate. Normally, a place like New York, with its access to power from Niagara Falls, would be an ideal location for such a project. These centers could create hundreds of jobs and boost the local economy. However, due to his concerns about New York's business environment, Cardone is looking at other states like Oklahoma, North Dakota, and West Virginia for these projects. He mentioned meetings with Governors Stitt, Bergen, and Justice of these states, praising them for their business-friendly policies. Cardone pointed out that this decision to avoid New York affects existing businesses and potential new investments, like the multi-billion-dollar data centers. He questioned New York's ability to attract new businesses and retain existing ones, suggesting that the state needs to work hard to improve its situation. He contrasted New York with states like Tennessee, which he sees as thriving due to good policies and competitive taxes. He emphasized the importance of considering these factors when deciding where to invest and categorized states as either winners or losers based on these criteria. In his view, New York falls into the latter category and faces significant challenges in changing this perception. Supporters of President Trump are expressing strong objections to what they perceive as an unjust legal system. They are considering a boycott that could significantly impact New York City, one of the largest and most influential cities in the United States.
President Trump supporters are pushing back against what they see as an unfair justice system, threatening a boycott that could have a major impact on the country's largest city.
They are questioning whether the recent legal decision against Trump in New York is an isolated incident or a sign of more such outcomes in the future. The concern among Trump's supporters is that the legal ruling sets a new standard that could worry real estate developers in New York. They fear this might not be a singular event, but a new trend in legal judgments.
Today, justice has been served. Today, we prove that no one is above the law. No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
The role of Letitia James, the Attorney General, and the judge in this case is particularly noted, as their decision creates a worrying precedent for the real estate industry in New York. Developers are now anxious about whether they need to re-examine their own situations because, in their view, the Trump case didn't have any real victims. They argue that the banks involved were knowledgeable and did their homework on the property values and that Trump repaid his loans with interest. These developers are growing concerned about their vulnerability to similar legal challenges. They're speculating about the possibility of a Republican attorney general being elected in New York, or a Republican district attorney in other areas where they have developments. Although they think it's unlikely in New York, they worry that such a scenario elsewhere could expose them to similar legal risks because of the precedent set by Trump's case. Chapter 2. Trump's legal fallout, real estate, politics, and a truckers' boycott in New York. Governor Hochul described the Trump case as a unique, one-time situation due to what she saw as Trump's particularly egregious behavior. However, Trump's supporters and some real estate developers are skeptical of this view. They're concerned about the broader implications of this legal decision, fearing it could be the start of a trend rather than an isolated event. They're debating the potential long-term effects of this case on the real estate industry and the political and legal landscape in New York and possibly in other parts of the country. Supporters of President Trump are voicing their concerns and disbelief regarding the recent legal decision involving a $355 million penalty. They argue that the decision lacks justification because, according to them, no one actually lost money. They question the rationale behind the judge's ruling and express skepticism about the legal standards in New York. The penalty, which includes a 9% interest rate, is seen as arbitrary and unjustified, especially because they believe there were no real victims in the case. These supporters feel that the explanations offered by the authorities are unconvincing and irrelevant, and they emphasize that this issue goes beyond President Trump. They view it as a broader problem with how New York handles legal matters, worrying that it could tarnish the state's reputation globally. Additionally, some truck drivers are considering a boycott, planning to stop transporting goods to and from New York City. This action directly responds to the verdict against the former president in his business fraud trial. The potential boycott raises concerns about how it might affect prices in New York and across the entire United States. The impact of such a boycott could be significant, potentially influencing the cost of goods and the economy both in the city and nationally. This development adds another layer of complexity to the situation, as it involves not just legal and political considerations, but also economic ones, with possible ramifications for consumers and businesses far beyond New York's borders. If truck drivers decide to boycott New York City, it could have a severe and immediate impact. We're looking at places like supermarkets, large retail stores, and many other businesses that depend a lot on trucks to deliver their products. These businesses would start to struggle, and their customers would feel the effects too. Nearly all communities in New York City rely on trucking for moving their goods. This morning, we're standing on the New Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge, a major route into the city. Every day, hundreds, maybe even thousands, of trucks use this bridge to go from New Jersey into New York City. Chicago Ray has been stirring up quite a conversation among truck drivers. For about the past hour and 15 minutes, he's been on the radio, communicating with them. During this time, he's spoken to at least 10 truck drivers who are choosing to go in the opposite direction of New York City. Starting next Monday, these drivers plan to refuse any loads meant for New York City. This decision comes as they react to recent events in the city. Chicago Ray has become quite popular online. Just last night, his post on a platform that was previously known as Twitter received more than 6 million views and 60,000 likes. Even former President Trump noticed what Chicago Ray is doing. Trump shared Ray's video on his own platform, Truth Social. However, it's difficult to know exactly how many truck drivers are really following Chicago Ray's call and what impact this might have. This isn't a coordinated effort. The drivers who are showing support for Chicago Ray are spread out all over the United States. Efforts were made to get insights from those who might be affected by or have knowledge of this situation. The Teamsters Union, which represents many truck drivers, was contacted, but they haven't responded. Similarly, attempts were made to reach out to the National Supermarket Association, based in New York City, but they did not respond either. Meanwhile, Chicago Ray's influence and the reactions to his call are becoming a topic of interest and discussion, highlighting the potential ripple effects of his campaign against shipping to New York City. Chapter 3. High Taxes and Tough Rules. The high taxes and complex regulatory environment in New York are significant factors influencing the business and investment landscape. The state's corporate income tax rate is relatively high, and businesses also face additional taxes, such as the Metropolitan Transportation Authority surcharge. Additionally, the high cost of living, especially in New York City, poses challenges in attracting and retaining employees. New York's economic strategies and tax policies make it difficult for companies and wealthy individuals to settle there. This has led to investors and businesses considering relocation to states with more favorable economic conditions. For example, North Carolina is seen as an attractive alternative due to its strong economy, skilled workforce, low corporate income tax rates, and incentives for job creation and local investment. Regarding the financial sector, which is a critical component of New York's economy, there has been a significant fluctuation in Wall Street profits. After soaring in 2020 and 2021, profits fell back to levels within the range of pre-2020 patterns in 2022. The stock market's performance and rising interest rates were crucial in this shift. For 2023 and the following years, Wall Street profits are expected to remain near their current level. The office real estate market in New York City also reflects these changes. The health crisis-induced shift to remote and hybrid work models, combined with a period of increased supply in office space, led to reduced demand and a decline in the office market. The political atmosphere in New York, like in many other places, presents a complex environment for businesses, particularly in sectors like property and finance. The state is known for its stringent regulations, which, while protecting various stakeholders and maintaining market stability, can also increase operational costs and reduce business profitability. This situation is exacerbated by the broader context of increasing political risk globally, which impacts business strategies and decision-making processes. In New York, strict rules in areas such as property and finance often result in higher operational costs for businesses. This is due to the need to comply with various regulations, which can be more demanding than other states. For instance, New York City's real estate market is heavily regulated, with laws covering rent control and building codes. Similarly, the financial industry, a significant sector in New York, is subject to rigorous oversight from both state and federal agencies. While designed to protect consumers and ensure market fairness, these regulations can also make New York a less attractive option for investors seeking more lenient regulatory environments. Moreover, political discussions in New York often center around strong regulation and monitoring, contributing to a sense of uncertainty and instability among investors. This uncertainty is not unique to New York, but is part of a global trend where businesses are increasingly concerned about political risks. A study conducted by Knowledge at Wharton highlights that global political risks are on the rise, and companies are struggling to manage these effectively. The study, based on a survey of over 1,000 C-level executives, revealed that 94% of respondents acknowledged an increase in unexpected political risk impacting their companies. Furthermore, only 55% felt confident in managing these risks, a significant drop from the previous year's 74%. The political climate also influences globalization trends, affecting companies' strategies and valuation models. The study by Wharton management professor Witold Henies pointed out that companies need to develop parallel supply chains to cater to different markets, notably China and the rest of the world. This need for diversified supply chains, partly in response to geopolitical tensions and the last health crisis, has increased costs and operational complexities for businesses. Such global considerations are particularly relevant for New York-based companies that are often deeply integrated into international markets. Data security and privacy have emerged as novel political risks. The increasing politicization of data, as highlighted by Henies, poses new challenges for companies operating in various jurisdictions. For instance, companies may face conflicting demands regarding data handling and privacy in different countries, adding another layer of complexity to their operations. In today's world, businesses are changing the way they handle risks because of the growing political uncertainties. But there's a problem. They find it hard to link political happenings with how they affect their money. While many companies use a mix of human thinking and advanced computer programs, AI, to keep an eye on risks, figuring out how these risks will hit their finances is tough. This gap makes it difficult for companies to manage risks well and plan for the future. Let's consider New York City, famous for its dynamic culture and as a major hub for global finance. This city has dealt with several social challenges that have made it less appealing for investors. High crime rates, increasing numbers of homeless people, worries about the safety of the public, and a drop in the quality of public services are key issues. These issues are important because they can change how much properties are worth and affect the growth potential, especially for those who want to invest in buildings and land. Similarly, other cities and regions face their own unique challenges. For example, in areas prone to natural disasters like hurricanes or earthquakes, businesses must consider the impact of these events on their operations and investments. The risk of property damage, interruption of business activities, and the potential for increased insurance costs are real concerns. Moreover, political changes in a country can also lead to economic uncertainties. When a new government comes into power, it might change policies, affecting businesses in various sectors. For instance, changes in tax laws, environmental regulations, or foreign trade policies can significantly impact companies' financial planning and investment strategies. In international markets, companies often face risks related to political instability or geopolitical tensions. For example, a company operating in a country with a volatile political climate might face risks like government intervention, expropriation of assets, or sudden changes in regulations. These factors can disrupt their operations and lead to financial losses. Another aspect is the increasing awareness of social and environmental issues. Companies are now more accountable for their impact on society and the environment. Negative publicity related to environmental damage or poor labor practices can harm a company's reputation and affect its financial performance. Technology-related risks are also on the rise. Cybersecurity threats, data breaches, and the rapid pace of technological change can pose significant challenges. Companies need to invest in robust cybersecurity measures and stay updated with technological advancements to protect their assets and maintain a competitive edge. As businesses navigate these diverse and complex risks, they need to develop more sophisticated methods to understand and quantify their financial implications. This involves monitoring the risks and integrating them into their financial planning and strategic decision-making processes. By doing so, they can better prepare for and mitigate the potential impacts of these risks on their operations and financial health. Chapter 4: The Unstable ESG Trap. Despite these challenges, New York remains a significant global financial hub, with ongoing efforts to retain and attract investors. Initiatives like tax incentives for specific industries, investments in infrastructure, and strategies to address social issues are key to enhancing the city's appeal. The city's cultural vibrancy, diverse talent pool, and status as a global business center remain strong points in its favor. As the importance of environmental, social, and governance (ESG) factors grows in shaping investment decisions, New York City stands to gain a lot. With its mix of different cultures and forward-thinking social policies, the city is in a good position to attract investors who care about sustainability and fairness in society. This trend is evident in events like the Responsible Investment Forum held in New York, highlighting the investment community's increasing focus on these values. New York has been working hard to improve health fairness, especially following a recent major health crisis. This crisis shed light on big differences in health conditions among people, pushing business leaders to include health fairness in their business goals. We can see this change in new rules from the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, requiring plans for diversity in clinical trials. There's also a bigger emphasis on reaching more patients, making sure they can get health care, and improving the quality of that care. Moreover, there's a growing awareness of the need to invest more in mental health, an area that hasn't received enough funding in the past but became very important globally during the health crisis. The city is taking a comprehensive approach to tackle these social challenges. For example, dealing with homelessness is about more than just providing shelters. It involves addressing root causes like the need for affordable homes, mental health issues, and drug abuse problems. In a similar way, to lower crime rates, the city is focusing on better community-based policing, investing in programs for young people, and creating more job opportunities in areas where crime is high. Another case is the city's approach to education. New York is working to make schools better and more inclusive, ensuring that children from all backgrounds have equal opportunities to learn and succeed. This involves improving the quality of education in underfunded areas, offering more diverse programs, and ensuring access to technology and resources for all students. The city is also focusing on environmental sustainability. Efforts include promoting green energy, improving public transportation, and working on projects that make the city more resilient to climate change. These initiatives not only help the environment, but also create job opportunities and improve the quality of life for residents. These examples show how New York City is adapting to the changing needs and expectations of investors and citizens alike. By focusing on sustainability, social equity, and overall well-being, the city is working to become a more attractive and responsible place to live and invest in. New York's investment in its infrastructure is another critical element in maintaining its attractiveness. Modernizing transportation systems, upgrading digital infrastructure, and ensuring the city doesn't look like a dumpster are essential for future growth. These investments improve residents' quality of life and make the city more attractive to businesses and investors. Chapter 5. Are banks leaving New York? As the first anniversary of a significant crisis that led to the downfall of several medium-sized banks draws near, another banking institution is facing difficulties, drawing unwanted attention to the banking sector once again. New York Community Bancorp is actively working to calm worries about its financial stability. The bank has been issuing statements and even arranged an emergency meeting with its investors on a Wednesday morning, as the value of its shares plummeted. The value of the bank's stocks has dramatically fallen since it disclosed a troubling financial report. This report revealed unexpected losses in real estate loans connected to both office buildings and apartment complexes. The bank's share value has dropped by roughly 2/3 following a continuous decrease. Alessandro Dinello, who was recently appointed as the bank's executive chairman, spoke to investors at the beginning of the Wednesday call. He acknowledged that the bank has been facing a critical situation since it announced its fourth-quarter earnings. The bank's leadership is trying to reassure everyone that the bank is still strong and they are working hard to steer it back to a stable path. The bank, which has 420 branches nationwide under names like Flagstar Bank and Ohio Savings Bank, grew significantly over the past year. It now has over $100 billion in assets. This growth came after it took over Signature Bank last spring. This takeover happened through an auction organized by federal regulators. Shares of other banks that have investments in commercial real estate have also fallen in value, although not as severely. This situation serves as a reminder that problems in one bank can impact others. Similar issues were seen last spring when concerns about banks having focused customer groups and investments in low-interest bonds led to the collapse of several banks. Here's what's important to understand. What's causing the recent concerns in the banking sector? The main issue for New York Community Bancorp started when it disclosed that the value of its real estate loans had decreased significantly. This led the bank to cut its dividend and set aside $500 million as a safety net against potential future losses. The bank pointed out two loans, one for an office complex and another for a residential building, that were behind up to $185 million in losses. Bank representatives, who didn't respond to requests for comments, caused even more worry by avoiding questions from analysts about their profit expectations. The bank's stock value fell nearly 40% after the earnings report and continued to decline a lot more. Many other banks, including smaller local banks and non-public lenders, might also experience financial issues due to their loans in commercial real estate. These loans, often given out before the health crisis, are now more risky. The health crisis led to a lot of people working from home, which reduced the need for office spaces and decreased the value of these buildings. Additionally, the increase in interest rates over the past few years has made repaying or restructuring these loans more costly. M&T Bank, which is similar in size and has a similar amount of investment in commercial real estate, is also under scrutiny. This information comes from Wolfe Research. M&T Bank's most recent financial report showed an increase in real estate loans that are causing concern. However, experts believe that the bank can handle these issues. On average, the stocks of regional banks have dropped by more than 10%, and they are expected to continue dropping. The largest banks in America, like JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup, have been preparing for potential losses in real estate for several months. They're seen as more capable of handling an economic downturn due to their wide range of loans and many depositors. The stock prices of these big banks have been more stable compared to smaller banks. JP Morgan Chase even announced on Tuesday that it plans to open 500 new branches over the next 3 years. Jerome H. Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, mentioned in an interview on 60 Minutes that aired on Sunday that he doesn't believe a banking crisis caused by real estate is likely. He acknowledged that some smaller and regional banks are facing challenges, but assured that the Federal Reserve is working with these banks. Mr. Powell referred to the situation as a significant problem, one that the Federal Reserve has been monitoring for quite some time. Commercial real estate loans have become riskier because of changes in the workplace caused by the health crisis and the increase in interest rates. M&T Bank, similar to New York Community Bancorp, has shown signs of trouble with its real estate loans, but is believed to be in a manageable situation. Larger banks like JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup seem better prepared to handle these challenges. They have been saving money for this situation and have a diverse range of financial activities. Their stock prices have remained relatively stable, and they are even expanding. The Federal Reserve's leader, Jerome Powell, thinks that a major banking crisis is unlikely, although he admits that some banks are struggling. The Federal Reserve has been keeping an eye on this issue for a long time and is working with these banks to help them. Janet Yellen, who is in charge of the U.S. Treasury, has been keeping a close eye on the current banking troubles, but chose not to comment specifically about New York Community Bancorp. She mentioned that she prefers not to jump to conclusions too soon, given the ongoing situation. Could the fear of a banking crisis cause people to pull out their money in a panic? In the previous year, during the spring season, the situation with banks worsened significantly. This happened because a lot of their customers became very worried. They all tried to withdraw their money at the same time, which created a big problem. Banks usually keep only a small part of their customers' money on hand, so they struggled to give everyone their cash. With the rise of internet banking and quick online money transfers, such problems can happen more rapidly now. But it looks like New York Community Bancorp, a bank, isn't on the verge of facing this kind of trouble. Now, the ones in charge of the bank shared that there was a small decrease, about 2%, in the amount of money people kept in the bank during the last part of the previous year. Then, on a Tuesday, they shared some late-night news as described by experts at UBS, a financial services company. They announced that the amount of money in the bank had gone back up since the start of the new year, returning to the levels before the decrease. The head of New York Community Bancorp, Thomas R. Kanjami, talked about how the bank is working to make their risk management better. This is to make sure it's right for the bank's size and how complex it is. He also said that a recent lower rating from Moody's, a big financial rating company, wouldn't really harm the bank. Earlier in January, the person in charge of managing risks at the bank left. Now, they're looking to hire someone new for that role and also a new chief audit executive. These new hires should have experience working with big banks, as Mr. Kangemi mentioned. The bank also announced that Mr. Dinello, who used to be the CEO of Flagstar, another bank that New York Community Bancorp bought, became a non-executive director of the bank near the end of last year. When a bank's stock value goes down, it doesn't mean the bank stops working normally. For instance, New York Community Bancorp's branches are open and running like usual. Also, the government guarantees the safety of each customer's money up to $250,000. Even for those with more than this insured amount, there are plans in place. Regulators often set up auctions in serious situations, like the one last spring. In these auctions, banks that are having trouble are taken over by stronger banks. This is done to ensure that ordinary people's savings are safe. What's up with this? Is it the end of New York, or will nothing happen to it? Let us know in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more.